For thousands of years, humanity has gazed up at the night sky and wondered, are we alone? Those pinpricks of light in the darkness have inspired countless stories, dreams, and questions. But in the past century, something changed. People began reporting strange objects moving through our skies in ways that defied explanation, silent crafts performing impossible maneuvers, lights that appeared and vanished without a trace, encounters that left witnesses forever changed. Whether you're a skeptic, a believer, or somewhere beautifully in between, the phenomenon of unidentified flying objects has woven itself into the fabric of modern human experience. Tonight, we're going to explore 100 facts about UFOs and the mysteries that surround them. Not to convince you of anything, but simply to share the fascinating, strange, and often surprising truths about one of humanity's most enduring enigmas. So settle in, relax, and let's begin our journey through the unknown. Our story begins not in the modern era, but in ancient skies. The first recorded UFO sighting in history dates back to 1440 BCE in ancient Egypt. Scribes of Pharaoh Thutmose III documented what they described as circles of fire appearing in the sky for several days. These objects were said to be brighter than the sun, and they moved silently across the heavens before eventually ascending higher and disappearing. The account was preserved on papyrus, though the original was lost. We know of it through a transcription made in the early 20th century. Whether these were atmospheric phenomena, astronomical events, or something else entirely, the ancient Egyptians looked up and saw something they couldn't explain, just as we do today. Fast forward to 1561, and the skies above Nuremberg, Germany became the stage for one of the most bizarre mass sightings in recorded history. On the morning of April 4th, residents witnessed what they described as an aerial battle. According to contemporary woodcut illustrations and written accounts, cylindrical objects, spheres, and cross-shaped craft appeared in the sky at dawn, seeming to engage in some kind of conflict for over an hour. Witnesses reported that some objects crashed outside the city, creating smoke. The event was so significant that it was documented in the local gazette, and the woodcut depicting it still exists today in the Zurich Central Library. Medieval observers interpreted this through the lens of their religious worldview, seeing it as a divine warning, but the precise nature of what they witnessed remains unexplained. The term flying saucer that we all know so well was actually born from a misquote. On June 24, 1947, private pilot Kenneth Arnold was flying near Mount Rainier in Washington when he spotted 9 unusual objects moving at incredible speed. When he described their motion to reporters, he said they moved like a saucer if you skip it across water. He was describing their movement, not their shape. The newspapers, however, ran with flying saucer, and the phrase entered our collective vocabulary overnight. Arnold actually described the objects as crescent-shaped or boomerang-like. But the name stuck, and suddenly, everyone was seeing saucers in the sky. It's a perfect example of how language shapes our perception of mystery. Just 2 weeks after Kenneth Arnold's sighting, something crashed on a ranch near Roswell, New Mexico, and it would become the most famous UFO incident in history. In early July 1947, rancher Mac Brazel found strange debris scattered across his property, materials he described as unlike anything he'd seen before. The local Roswell Army Airfield initially issued a press release stating they had recovered a flying disc, only to retract it hours later, claiming it was merely a weather balloon. This reversal fueled decades of speculation. What makes Roswell particularly intriguing is that it wasn't widely discussed as a UFO event until the late 1970s, when witnesses began coming forward with accounts of recovered alien bodies and secret operations. The case remains a cultural touchstone, representing for many the moment when the government's relationship with UFO phenomena became shrouded in official secrecy. In response to the wave of UFO sightings in the late 1940s, the United States Air Force launched Project Sign in 1948, the first official government investigation into UFOs. The project was classified, and its investigators were tasked with determining whether these objects posed a threat to national security. What's remarkable is that the project's initial assessment, known as the estimate of the situation, reportedly concluded that UFOs were of extraterrestrial origin. However, This estimate was rejected by Air Force Chief of Staff General Hoyt Vandenberg, and the report was allegedly ordered destroyed. Project Sign was eventually replaced by Project Grudge, and then by the more well-known Project Blue Book. The fact that the very first official investigation leaned toward an extraterrestrial explanation, only to have that conclusion suppressed, set a pattern that conspiracy theorists would point to for generations. Project Blue Book, which ran from 1952 to 1969, investigated over 12,000 UFO reports. Of these, the Air Force explained away the vast majority as misidentifications, whether phenomena or astronomical objects. But here's what's fascinating: 701 cases remained officially classified as unidentified. These weren't cases where they simply didn't have enough information. These were sightings investigated thoroughly by trained personnel, often with multiple credible witnesses, radar confirmation, or physical evidence, and yet no conventional explanation could account for what was observed. When Project Blue Book was closed, the Air Force concluded that UFOs did not represent a threat to national security and were not extraterrestrial. However, the head of the project, astronomer Dr. J. Allen Hynek, who had initially been a skeptic, became increasingly convinced that something genuinely anomalous was occurring and continued investigating UFOs for the rest of his life. One of the most compelling military UFO encounters occurred over Tehran, Iran in 1976. On the night of September 18th, citizens and airport officials reported a bright object in the sky. The Iranian Air Force scrambled two F-4 Phantom jets to investigate. As the first jet approached the object, all its instruments and communications went dead. When the pilot turned away, his systems came back online. The second jet achieved radar lock on the object, which was described as displaying brilliant, strobing lights. When the crew attempted to fire a missile at it, their weapons system failed. A smaller object then detached from the main craft and headed straight for the jet, causing the pilot to execute evasive maneuvers. The object then returned to the larger craft. When the jets landed, their instrumentation was thoroughly examined and found to be in perfect working order. What makes this case particularly credible is that it was documented in a U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency report, which called it an outstanding report with credible observers of almost incomprehensible perceptions. In the forests of Rendlesham, England, just after Christmas in 1980, something happened that would become known as Britain's Roswell. U.S. Air Force personnel stationed at RAF Woodbridge reported seeing strange lights descending into the nearby forest. Upon investigation, they encountered a metallic, triangular craft that appeared to be hovering or on legs. One witness, Staff Sergeant Jim Peniston, claimed to have touched the craft and seen strange symbols on its surface. He later reported receiving a binary code message telepathically, though he didn't reveal this until years later. The following night saw continued activity, with the Deputy Base Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt, leading a group that encountered multiple objects maneuvering through the trees and beaming down lights. Holt recorded his observations on an audio tape that would later become public. Physical evidence included elevated radiation readings at the landing site and indentations in the ground forming a triangular pattern. Multiple military personnel witnessed these events, and many have stood by their accounts for over 4 decades. These first accounts take us from ancient Egypt to Cold War military bases, from misunderstood descriptions to carefully documented encounters. What connects them all is the human experience of witnessing something that doesn't fit into our understanding of reality. As we continue this journey through 100 facts, you'll discover that the UFO phenomenon is far richer, stranger, and more thought-provoking than the simple question of do aliens exist. Let's continue exploring. In 1989, a man named Bob Lazar appeared on Las Vegas television and made an extraordinary claim that would reshape UFO discourse forever. Lazar stated that he had worked at a secret facility called S4 near the infamous Area 51 in Nevada, where he allegedly reverse-engineered alien spacecraft for the US government. He described 9 flying saucers housed in hangars built into a mountainside, and claimed these craft used a mysterious element he called Element 115 as fuel, which generated gravity waves for propulsion. What's particularly intriguing is that element 115 didn't officially exist when Lazar made these claims. It wasn't synthesized by scientists until 2003, though its properties don't match Lazar's descriptions. While his employment records at the alleged facilities have never been verified and many physicists dispute his claims, Lazar's story brought Area 51 into popular consciousness and raised questions about what secret research might be conducted at classified military installations. On November 7, 2006, at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport, multiple United Airlines employees and witnesses reported seeing a dark, disc-shaped object hovering over Gate C-17. The object remained stationary for several minutes before suddenly shooting upward at incredible speed, leaving a clear, round hole in the cloud cover above. At least 12 United employees filed reports, including pilots and mechanics, trained observers who work around aircraft daily. The witnesses described the object as metallic and clearly structured, not a weather phenomenon. When the story broke in the Chicago Tribune 2 months later, it became one of the most widely reported UFO sightings in modern history. The Federal Aviation Administration dismissed it as a weather phenomenon without conducting an investigation, despite multiple requests. The case is notable because it occurred at a major airport in broad daylight with numerous credible witnesses, yet received no official investigation, a pattern that has fueled suspicion about how seriously authorities take such reports. The Phoenix Lights incident of March 13, 1997, remains one of the largest mass UFO sightings in U.S. history. Thousands of witnesses across Arizona and Nevada reported seeing two distinct phenomena that evening. The first was a massive V-shaped or boomerang-shaped object, estimated to be anywhere from 1 to 2 miles wide, that passed silently over the state. Witnesses described it as blotting out the stars as it moved overhead, with lights along its edges. The second phenomenon was a series of stationary lights that appeared over Phoenix in a triangular formation. The governor of Arizona at the time, Fife Symington, initially held a press conference mocking the reports, but years later revealed he had actually witnessed the object himself and found it deeply disturbing. The Air Force eventually claimed the lights were flares dropped during a training exercise, but this explanation doesn't account for the massive structured craft reported by thousands earlier in the evening, which traveled from Henderson, Nevada, through Arizona in a steady path. In 2004, the USS Nimitz Carrier Strike Group encountered something off the coast of San Diego that would later be called the Tic Tac incident, one of the most well-documented military UFO encounters ever. Over several days, the Princeton, an Aegis cruiser with sophisticated radar systems, detected multiple anomalous objects appearing at 80,000 feet, then suddenly dropping to 20,000 feet in less than a second. Navy F-Ray-18 Super Hornets were scrambled to investigate. Commander David Fravor and his wingmen encountered a white, oblong object roughly 40 feet long that had no visible wings, rotors, or exhaust. The object mirrored their movements, then accelerated away at speeds the pilots described as impossible, later estimated at several thousand miles per hour. When another pilot achieved infrared lock on a similar object, the footage showed it performing maneuvers that would create G-forces that would destroy any known aircraft. This wasn't released to the public until 2017, and the Navy has since confirmed the videos are genuine and that the objects remain unidentified. The Pentagon officially acknowledged the existence of a secret UFO investigation program in December 2017. The Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or ATIP, operated from 2007 to 2012 with an annual budget of $22 million. The program was initiated by Senator Harry Reid and was primarily run through the Defense Intelligence Agency. Its mission was to investigate reports of unidentified aerial phenomena, particularly those encountered by military personnel. Luis Elizondo, who led the program, resigned in 2017 and went public, expressing frustration that the phenomena weren't being taken seriously enough despite presenting potential national security concerns. The revelation of ATIP marked a significant shift. For the first time in decades, the US government officially acknowledged ongoing interest in UFOs, now rebranded as Unidentified Aerial Phenomena or UAPs. This wasn't a fringe topic anymore. It was a matter being discussed in the halls of the Pentagon and Congress. In June 2021, the U.S. Office of the Director of National Intelligence released a preliminary assessment on unidentified aerial phenomena to Congress, the first official government report on UFOs since Project Blue Book ended in 1969. The 9-page report examined 144 incidents reported by military aviators between 2004 and 2021. Of these 144 cases, investigators could only explain one with high confidence: a large, deflating balloon. The remaining 143 remained unexplained. The report acknowledged that some UAPs appeared to demonstrate unusual flight characteristics, including objects remaining stationary in high winds, moving against the wind, maneuvering abruptly, or moving at considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion. The report stopped short of ruling out extraterrestrial origins, but noted that the objects could represent advanced technology from foreign adversaries, which would itself be a significant national security concern. The report's release marked an unprecedented level of government transparency on the subject. Dr. J. Allen Hynek, the astronomer who served as scientific advisor to Project Blue Book, developed a classification system for UFO encounters that's still used today. His Close Encounters scale has 3 main categories. Close encounters of the first kind involve sightings of unidentified objects at close range. Close encounters of the second kind involve UFOs that leave physical evidence, such as scorch marks, electromagnetic effects, or effects on animals and humans. Close encounters of the third kind involve sightings of animate beings or occupants in or around the UFO. Hynek initially approached his work as a debunker, expecting to explain away sightings as misidentifications or hoaxes. However, after years of investigation and interviewing hundreds of witnesses, he became convinced that a small percentage of cases represented genuine anomalies that deserved serious scientific study. His evolution from skeptic to advocate demonstrates how even the most rigorous scientific minds can be changed by the weight of evidence. His classification system brought academic rigor to a field often dismissed as pseudoscience. The Brazilian government has been remarkably transparent about UFO encounters, releasing thousands of pages of previously classified documents. One of the most dramatic incidents occurred in 1986, known as the Night of the UFOs. On May 19th, multiple unidentified objects appeared on radar and were visually confirmed by civilian and military pilots across the country. The Brazilian Air Force scrambled 5 fighter jets, F-5E Tigers and Mirage 3s, from 3 different bases to intercept the objects. The pilots reported being pursued by the UFOs, describing them as executing maneuvers impossible for conventional aircraft, including sudden stops and rapid acceleration. At one point, a pilot was surrounded by 13 objects. The chase lasted for over an hour and was tracked by ground radar. What makes this case extraordinary is that the Brazilian Minister of Aeronautics held a press conference shortly after, openly discussing the events and acknowledging they had no explanation for what occurred. This level of official transparency about a military UFO encounter remains rare globally. From secret government programs to open military acknowledgment, from skeptical scientists becoming believers to incidents involving entire carrier strike groups, the phenomenon continues to challenge our assumptions. These accounts share a common thread: trained, credible observers witnessing technology that seems to operate beyond our current understanding of physics. And we're only getting started. In the small town of Levelland, Texas, on November 2, 1957, something extraordinary happened that involved not just sightings, but physical effects on technology. Over the course of 2 hours, 15 separate witnesses reported encounters with a glowing, egg-shaped object that caused car engines to die and headlights to go out. The encounters followed a pattern. Drivers would see a bright light approaching, their vehicles would suddenly lose all electrical power, and the object would pass overhead before the cars would inexplicably restart. One witness, a truck driver named Pedro Sacedo, reported that the object passed directly over his vehicle, generating intense heat. Local police received multiple calls from frightened motorists, and officers themselves witnessed strange lights in the sky. Project Blue Book investigated and attributed the incidents to ball lightning and wet wiring from recent storms, but ball lightning typically lasts only seconds, and the weather that night was clear. The Levelland incident remains one of the best documented cases of electromagnetic effects associated with UFO sightings. The aerial school encounter in Ruawa, Zimbabwe, in 1994 stands as one of the most intriguing cases involving children as witnesses. On September 16, 62 schoolchildren, aged 6 to 12, reported seeing a silver craft land in a field near their playground during morning recess. They described small beings with large eyes emerging from the craft. What makes this case particularly compelling is the consistency of the children's accounts, even when interviewed separately. Harvard psychiatrist Dr. John Mack traveled to Zimbabwe to interview the witnesses and found them credible, showing no signs of fabrication. Many children reported receiving telepathic messages about humanity's treatment of the environment and technology. Even more remarkable, when these witnesses were interviewed again as adults, 25 years later, they maintained their stories with the same consistency and emotional impact, insisting that what they experienced was real. The case challenges our assumptions about witness reliability, particularly when those witnesses are children with no apparent motive to deceive. The Westall UFO encounter in Melbourne, Australia, in 1966 involved over 200 students and teachers who witnessed a metallic, disc-shaped object descend into a field near their school. The object, described as about the size of 2 cars, landed briefly in an area called the Grange before taking off at incredible speed. 5 small aircraft were seen in the vicinity, apparently pursuing or observing the object. Students who ran to the landing site reported finding a circular pattern of flattened grass. What followed was perhaps as strange as the sighting itself. Witnesses reported being told by men in suits not to discuss what they'd seen. The school principal allegedly ordered students and staff not to talk about the incident, and some witnesses claimed their cameras were confiscated. The local newspaper's coverage of the event disappeared from archives. Despite involving hundreds of witnesses, the incident was largely forgotten until researcher Shane Ryan began interviewing witnesses decades later. Many expressed frustration that something so significant, witnessed by so many, had been effectively suppressed and ignored. Belgium experienced a wave of UFO sightings between 1989 and 1990 that became one of the most thoroughly investigated cases in European history. Thousands of witnesses, including police officers and military personnel, reported seeing large, triangular craft with bright lights at each corner moving silently through the sky. On the night of March 30, 1990, the Belgian Air Force scrambled F-16 fighters to intercept the objects after they were detected on ground radar. The jets achieved radar lock multiple times, but the objects would suddenly accelerate or change altitude in ways that defied physics, dropping from 10,000 feet to 500 feet in 5 seconds, for example. The G-forces from such maneuvers would be fatal to any biological pilot. Belgium's military and scientific community took the sightings seriously, and the Belgian Society for the Study of Space Phenomena, SOBEPS, collected over 1,000 witness reports. Major General Wilfred de Brouwer of the Belgian Air Force publicly discussed the incidents, stating that the object's behavior was definitively not conventional aircraft. The Belgian government's openness about these events stands in contrast to the secrecy often surrounding UFO encounters. The WOW signal isn't technically a UFO case, but it represents one of the most intriguing pieces of potential evidence for extraterrestrial intelligence. On August 15, 1977, Dr. Jerry Ehrman was reviewing data from the Big Ear radio telescope at Ohio State University when he noticed a strong narrowband radio signal that lasted for 72 seconds. The signal appeared to come from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius and was so remarkable that Ehrman circled it on the computer printout and wrote "Wow" in the margin. The signal bore the expected hallmarks of an interstellar transmission. It was at a frequency where hydrogen absorbs and emits energy, which scientists had theorized would be a logical choice for extraterrestrial communication. Despite numerous attempts to detect it again using the same and more powerful equipment, the signal has never been repeated. No natural astronomical phenomenon identified to date fully explains the WOW. Signals characteristics. It remains one of the most tantalizing mysteries in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Former Canadian Defence Minister Paul Hellyer became the highest-ranking government official to publicly state his belief that extraterrestrials are visiting Earth. In 2005, Hellyer gave a speech at the University of Toronto where he declared that UFOs are as real as the airplanes that fly over your head. Hellyer, who served in Canada's cabinet during the 1960s and had a distinguished political career, stated that he believed at least 4 species of extraterrestrials had been visiting Earth for thousands of years. He claimed to have been inspired to speak out after watching Peter Jennings' ABC special on UFOs and becoming convinced that the evidence was overwhelming. Hellyer criticized what he called a shadow government for suppressing information about alien visitation and advanced technology. While his claims about alien species cannot be verified, what makes his statement significant is his credibility. This wasn't a fringe figure, but a former Minister of Defense from a G7 nation willing to stake his reputation on these assertions. His willingness to speak openly encouraged discussions about UFOs in mainstream political circles. The Valentic disappearance remains one of aviation's most puzzling mysteries. On October 21, 1978, 20-year-old pilot Frederick Valentic was flying a Cessna 182 over the Bass Strait between mainland Australia and Tasmania when he radioed air traffic control to report that an unidentified aircraft was following him. In the recorded radio transmissions, Valentic described a large craft with 4 bright lights, about 1,000 feet above him. He reported that it wasn't an aircraft, it was moving too strangely. The object appeared to be playing some sort of game, hovering, then approaching at speed. Valentica's final transmission was, "It is hovering and it's not an aircraft." This was followed by 17 seconds of metallic, scraping sounds before the radio went silent. Neither Valentic nor his aircraft were ever found, despite extensive searches. The Australian Department of Transport investigated but could not determine the cause of the disappearance. Some investigators noted that there had been numerous UFO sightings in the area around that time, including reports of a green light in the sky on the night Valentic vanished. The term Men in Black didn't originate with the popular film franchise, it comes from decades of UFO witness reports. Beginning in the 1950s, people who reported UFO sightings began describing visits from mysterious men dressed in black suits who would appear at their homes, often shortly after an encounter. These visitors allegedly claimed to be government agents and would interrogate witnesses, sometimes threatening them or warning them not to discuss their experiences. What makes these reports unsettling is their consistency. The men are often described as appearing somewhat off, wearing outdated suits, speaking in stilted or odd ways, sometimes appearing to lack basic knowledge about everyday items. Albert Bender, who founded the International Flying Saucer Bureau in 1952, claimed he was visited by 3 men in black who revealed the truth about UFOs and ordered him to shut down his organization, which he did. While skeptics suggest these encounters are either hoaxes or misidentified visits from actual military or intelligence personnel, believers point to the strangeness of the accounts and their persistence across decades and countries as evidence of something more mysterious. From electromagnetic effects on vehicles to mysterious visitors silencing witnesses, from mass sightings involving hundreds of school children to government officials staking their reputations on extraordinary claims, the phenomenon weaves through our recent history in ways both documented and deeply strange. Each case adds another thread to a tapestry that becomes richer and more complex the more closely we examine it. The Cash Landrum incident of December 29, 1980, stands as one of the few UFO cases involving alleged physical harm to witnesses. Betty Cash, Vicky Landrum, and Vicky's 7-year-old grandson Colby were driving through the pine forests of Texas when they encountered a massive, diamond-shaped object hovering above the road, emitting intense heat and flames. The object was so bright it hurt to look at, and the heat was so intense that the car's metal dashboard became too hot to touch. Most disturbing was what they saw surrounding the object, a formation of military helicopters, which they identified as CH-47 Chinooks, 23 of them in total. After the encounter, all 3 witnesses developed symptoms consistent with radiation exposure: nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, burns, and hair loss. Betty Cash was hospitalized multiple times and her health never fully recovered. The witnesses sued the US government, believing the object was a secret military craft. However, the military denied any involvement, and the case was dismissed because the plaintiffs couldn't prove the object belonged to the government. Medical experts confirmed their injuries were real, but the source of the radiation-like exposure has never been explained. In 1561, we mentioned the Nuremberg incident, but it wasn't alone. Just 5 years later, in 1566, the skies over Basel, Switzerland witnessed a similar event. On August 7th, residents reported seeing large black spheres appearing near the sun, engaged in what appeared to be an aerial battle. The spheres reportedly moved toward the sun, turned red and seemed to consume each other, then many fell to earth as if on fire. Like the Nuremberg event, this was documented in a contemporary broadsheet, illustrated with a woodcut showing the phenomenon. The artist and writer, Samuel Coxius, described it in detail, noting that the event lasted for hours and was witnessed by many people. These Renaissance-era mass sightings are particularly intriguing because they occurred before the age of flight, before science fiction existed as a genre, and in a time when the conceptual framework for alien spacecraft didn't exist. Whatever people were seeing, they were interpreting it through the only lens available to them, religious and apocalyptic symbolism. The Shag Harbor incident of October 4, 1967, is one of the few UFO cases that involved a government-acknowledged search and recovery operation. Around 11:20 p.m., multiple witnesses in Shag Harbor, Nova Scotia, including a Royal Canadian Mounted Police officer, saw a large object with 4 lights descend into the waters of the harbor. The object tilted at about 45 degrees and hit the water, creating a bright flash and a loud whooshing sound. It floated on the surface briefly, leaving a thick yellow foam, before sinking. Believing it might be a crashed aircraft, the Coast Guard launched a search and rescue operation, but found no debris and no plane was reported missing. Navy divers were brought in to search the harbor floor but found nothing. According to some reports, military personnel tracked the object underwater for several days as it moved along the coast before disappearing. The Canadian government officially classified the incident as a UFO, unidentified flying object, in their reports, making it one of the few cases where the official conclusion is that something unknown crashed into the water. The Travis Walton abduction case of November 5, 1975, remains one of the most famous and controversial alien abduction accounts. Walton and 6 co-workers were driving through the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest in Arizona when they encountered a hovering disc-shaped craft. Walton approached the object, against his co-workers' warnings, and was struck by a beam of blue-green light that lifted him off the ground. His terrified companions fled in their truck. When they returned minutes later, both Walton and the craft were gone. Walton reappeared 5 days later, disoriented and claiming to have been aboard the craft, where he encountered both alien beings and human-like figures. What makes this case notable is that Walton's 6 co-workers all corroborated seeing the craft and the beam of light. They passed polygraph tests administered by a professional examiner. While skeptics have questioned aspects of the story and noted that Walton himself failed one polygraph test, though passed others, the fact remains that 7 men went into the woods together. 1 disappeared for 5 days under extraordinary circumstances witnessed by the others, and all have maintained their core story for nearly 50 years. Project Mogul was a classified U.S. military project that has become central to the Roswell debate. In 1994, the U.S. Air Force released a report stating that the debris found at Roswell in 1947 was from Project Mogul, a top-secret program that launched high-altitude balloons carrying acoustic sensors designed to detect Soviet nuclear tests. The balloons used in the project included materials that match some descriptions of the Roswell debris: reflective metallic material, unusual lightweight metals, and strange symbols, which were actually manufacturers' markings on the balloon materials. For many researchers, this explanation makes sense and closes the Roswell case. However, skeptics of this explanation point out that Project Mogul's existence wasn't revealed until 1994, 47 years after the incident, and question why rancher Mac Brazel, who had found weather balloons before, wouldn't have recognized the debris. They also note that the initial military press release specifically said flying disc, not balloon. The Project Mogul explanation represents either a reasonable solution to a decades-old mystery or, depending on your perspective, a convenient cover story released after most original witnesses had died. The Battle of Los Angeles on February 24 to 25, 1942, remains one of the strangest home front incidents of World War II. Just months after Pearl Harbor, with nerves frayed and fears of Japanese attack high, air raid sirens sounded across Los Angeles at 2:25 a.m. What followed was chaos. Searchlights scanned the sky, and anti-aircraft batteries fired over 1,400 shells at unidentified objects in the sky over a period of several hours. Witnesses reported seeing a large, slow-moving object caught in the searchlight beams, impervious to the shells bursting around it. Newspaper photographs the next day showed searchlights converging on an object in the sky. The official explanation from the military was initially that it was an attack, then that it was a false alarm caused by war nerves. The Secretary of the Navy later suggested it might have been commercial airplanes used to spread panic, while the Army insisted there were unidentified aircraft. 5 civilians died during the incident, 3 from traffic accidents in the blackout and 2 from heart attacks. To this day, no definitive explanation exists for what triggered such a massive military response or what, if anything, was actually in the sky that night. The Hessdalen lights in Norway represent one of the few UFO phenomena that have been studied continuously by scientists for decades. In the Hessdalen Valley, bright, unexplained lights have been appearing since at least the 1940s, but reports increased dramatically in the early 1980s. The lights appear as floating orbs, sometimes stationary, sometimes moving at incredible speeds, changing colors from white to yellow to red. What makes Hessdalen unique is the scientific response. In 1983, Project Hessdalen was established, and researchers installed automated monitoring stations with cameras, radar, and spectrum analyzers. The lights have been recorded thousands of times on multiple instruments simultaneously, confirming their real physical phenomena, not hallucinations or camera artifacts. Analysis has shown they sometimes appear on radar but not visually, or vice versa, and they display characteristics that don't match any known natural phenomena like ball lightning or plasma. Theories range from piezoelectric effects from the valley's geology to exotic plasma formations, but decades later, scientists still don't have a definitive explanation. The Hessdalen lights remain an ongoing mystery that continues to be studied, making it one of the most scientifically documented UFO phenomena in the world. The Stephenville sightings in Texas, beginning in January 2008, involved dozens of witnesses, including pilots, police officers, and business owners, who reported seeing massive objects in the sky, some described as being up to a mile long. The most dramatic accounts described a silent, enormous craft with bright lights that moved at incredible speeds or hovered motionlessly. Steve Allen, a pilot and business owner, reported seeing something that was very large and did not have any sound, moving at astonishing speed. The sightings occurred over several weeks and attracted national media attention. Initially, the U.S. Air Force stated they had no aircraft in the area at the time. However, after radar data was released through a Freedom of Information Act request showing military jets in the area during the sightings, the Air Force revised its statement, admitting that 10 F-16s had been conducting training operations. This reversal only fueled speculation. Were the jets pursuing the unknown craft, or were witnesses seeing military aircraft? Many witnesses insist what they saw was unlike any conventional aircraft, and the case reignited debates about military transparency regarding UFO incidents. From objects that caused physical illness to lights studied by scientists for decades, from World War II air raids against phantom enemies to small-town Texas witnessing mile-wide craft, each case adds layers of complexity to our understanding. Some have prosaic explanations. Others remain stubbornly unexplained, no matter how many experts examine them. The phenomenon refuses to fit neatly into boxes. The Rendlesham Forest incident we mentioned earlier has an additional fascinating detail that emerged years after the event. Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt, who led the investigation on the second night of encounters, created a memo for the British Ministry of Defence that included detailed observations. But what many don't know is that in 2010, Holt revealed he had been ordered to downplay the incident. He stated that after filing his report, he was told by his superiors to let it go and that the incident was being handled at a level above him. Even more intriguing, nearby Bentwaters and Woodbridge bases were US facilities that housed nuclear weapons during the Cold War. Some researchers suggest that if UFOs were going to investigate Earth's military capabilities, nuclear weapon sites would be logical targets. This theory is supported by numerous reports from other nuclear facilities around the world where UFO sightings coincided with temporary malfunctions of weapon systems, a pattern suggesting either intelligence gathering or perhaps a warning. On March 16, 1967, at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana, something unprecedented happened. 10 nuclear intercontinental ballistic missiles suddenly went offline simultaneously, dropping into no-go status, meaning they could not be launched. The missiles were located in underground silos spread across a large area, each with independent power supplies and backup systems, making a simultaneous failure extraordinarily unlikely. Former Air Force Captain Robert Salas, who was on duty that morning, reported that security personnel had been observing a glowing red object hovering above the facility's front gate just before the missiles failed. A similar incident occurred at another missile flight at the same base days later. The Air Force investigated but publicly stated that they found no explanation for the failures, though the official conclusion was equipment malfunction. Salas and other witnesses maintain that UFOs were involved and that the incident was far more significant than officially acknowledged. If true, it suggests that whatever intelligence might be behind UFO phenomena had the capability to interfere with our most powerful weapons, a sobering thought during the height of the Cold War. The ancient Sanskrit texts of India contain descriptions that some researchers believe are accounts of aerial vehicles and warfare. The Vimana texts, found in ancient Hindu epics like the Mahabharata and Ramayana, describe flying palaces or chariots called Vimanas. These texts include surprisingly technical details about construction, propulsion using mercury vortex engines, and capabilities like becoming invisible, creating defensive force fields, and traveling vast distances. One text, the Vaimanika Shastra, allegedly channeled by a mystic in the early 20th century, contains diagrams and specifications for various types of Vimana. Skeptics point out that the Vaimanika Shastra's technical details don't actually describe functional aircraft and that the physics described is impossible. However, believers argue that these could be garbled accounts of actual ancient technology or encounters with advanced beings. Whether these texts represent ancient imagination, encounters with phenomena they couldn't explain, or something more, they demonstrate that the concept of objects in the sky defying conventional explanation extends back thousands of years across different cultures. The Keller-Hopkinsville encounter of August 21, 1955, is one of the most detailed close encounter cases involving alleged extraterrestrial beings. The Sutton family and their friend Billy Ray Taylor reported that small, silvery beings with large eyes and claw-like hands appeared around their farmhouse near Kelly, Kentucky. The family described a terrifying several-hour ordeal where they fired shotguns at the creatures, which seemed impervious to gunfire. When shot, they would flip over and scurry away, only to reappear moments later. The beings were described as about 3 feet tall, with oversized heads and glowing eyes. After hours of this terrifying standoff, the family fled to the local police station. Officers who investigated found no evidence of creatures, but did find bullet holes and signs of gunfire consistent with the family's account. The family had no apparent motive for fabrication, they received no money, faced ridicule, and the attention forced them to eventually abandon their farm. Skeptics have suggested they may have been shooting at aggressive owls, which can appear strange in darkness and are difficult to kill with shotguns. However, the consistency and detail of multiple witnesses' accounts and their genuine terror have kept this case in UFO literature for nearly 70 years. The phenomenon of Foo Fighters reported by Allied pilots during World War II represents one of the earliest modern UFO waves. Pilots on both sides of the war reported mysterious glowing spheres or lights that would follow their aircraft, pace them at high speeds, perform impossible maneuvers, and then disappear. The objects were dubbed Foo Fighters by American pilots, referencing a popular comic strip phrase. What made these reports credible was that they came from trained military observers who initially feared they might be secret enemy weapons. Both Allied and Axis forces reported the same phenomena, ruling out the possibility that they were advanced aircraft from one side or the other. The objects never displayed hostile intent, they observed but didn't attack. After the war, investigators found that both sides had been seeing the same things and both had assumed they were secret weapons of the enemy. The official explanation settled on a variety of natural phenomena, St. Elmo's fire, ball lightning, reflections, but none fully explained the consistent reports of intelligently controlled objects. The Foo Fighters represent perhaps the first time in modern history that UFO phenomena were taken seriously as a potential military threat by major world powers. The Japanese Airlines Flight 1628 incident over Alaska in November 1986 involved experienced crew observing unknown craft for over 50 minutes. Captain Kenju Torochi, a veteran pilot with over 10,000 flight hours, was flying a cargo flight when he and his crew noticed lights that were keeping pace with their 747. The objects, which appeared on both the plane's radar and ground radar, included what Torochi described as a massive, walnut-shaped craft that he estimated was twice the size of an aircraft carrier. The smaller objects maneuvered around the plane, and at one point, the captain requested a deviation from their flight path to avoid the objects. The Federal Aviation Administration investigated and confirmed the radar contacts. However, the official conclusion was that Torochi had misidentified the planets Jupiter and Mars, despite the fact that planets don't appear on radar, don't pace aircraft, and don't cause experienced pilots to request emergency course changes. Torochi was subsequently grounded and faced professional consequences for reporting the incident. His case illustrates why many pilots are reluctant to report UFO encounters. The risk to their careers and credibility often outweighs any benefit of coming forward. The term alien abduction became part of popular culture largely due to the case of Barney and Betty Hill. On September 19, 1961, the couple was driving through New Hampshire when they observed a bright light following their car. Under hypnotic regression years later, both separately recalled being taken aboard a craft and subjected to medical examinations by gray-skinned beings with large eyes. What makes their case significant is several factors. They reported the experience immediately, experiencing 2 hours of missing time they couldn't account for. Betty drew a star map she claimed was shown to her by the beings, which amateur astronomer Marjorie Fish later suggested matched the Zeta Reticuli star system, and the description of the beings, greys with large almond-shaped eyes, matched no existing science fiction depictions at the time but became the standard description in subsequent reports. Skeptics note that the detailed memories only emerged under hypnosis, which is known to create false memories, and point to contemporary pop culture that might have influenced their accounts. Regardless of what actually happened, the Hill case established a template for alien abduction reports that would be repeated in thousands of subsequent accounts, creating either a consistent pattern of real encounters or a powerful cultural narrative that shaped how people interpreted ambiguous experiences. The Pascagoula abduction of October 11, 1973, involved 2 Mississippi shipyard workers, Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker, who claimed to have been taken aboard a UFO by robotic beings while fishing. What distinguishes this case is what happened after they reported it. Sheriff Fred Diamond, skeptical of their story, left them alone in a room with a hidden tape recorder, expecting them to break character and admit it was a hoax. Instead, the recording captured the 2 men in genuine distress, with Parker praying and Hickson trying to calm him down, discussing their terror over what had happened. Both men passed polygraph tests. Hickson, a respected foreman, had nothing to gain and much to lose by making up such a story in the conservative Deep South of 1973. Parker was so traumatized he largely avoided discussing the incident for decades. Years later, other witnesses came forward saying they had seen strange lights over the area that same night but had been too afraid to report them. The case represents one of the few alleged abductions where the witnesses' genuine distress was documented immediately after the event, before they had time to construct a narrative or seek attention. From ancient texts describing flying vehicles to modern pilots risking their careers to report what they've seen, from nuclear missiles mysteriously failing to terrified fishermen passing polygraphs, the accounts continue to accumulate across time and culture. Whether these represent genuine contact with non-human intelligence, misidentified phenomena, or something else entirely, the human response to these experiences tells us something profound about our place in the cosmos and our need to understand what lies beyond our current knowledge. The Kecksburg incident of December 9, 1965, has been called Pennsylvania's Roswell. Thousands of witnesses across 6 U.S. states and Canada reported seeing a brilliant fireball streak across the evening sky. The object appeared to be under intelligent control, making turns as it descended, before crashing into woods near the small town of Kecksburg, Pennsylvania. Witnesses who reached the crash site before authorities arrived described seeing an acorn-shaped object, about the size of a Volkswagen Beetle, with strange hieroglyphic-like symbols around its base. Within hours, the area was sealed off by military personnel who told locals that nothing had been found. However, multiple witnesses reported seeing a flatbed truck leaving the area that night with a large, top-covered object. The official explanation was that people had seen a meteor, but meteors don't make controlled turns, and they don't require military recovery operations. Journalists who investigated found documents showing intense military interest in the incident, but detailed records remain classified. In 2005, NASA claimed they had examined fragments but then stated those records were lost. The Kecksburg case exemplifies the frustrating pattern of compelling witness testimony met with official denials and missing documentation. The term ancient astronauts was popularized by Swiss author Erich von Däniken in his 1968 book Chariots of the Gods. Von Däniken proposed that many ancient megalithic structures and artifacts could only have been created with assistance from extraterrestrial visitors. He pointed to the precision of the Egyptian pyramids, the massive stones of Pumapunku in Bolivia, the Nazca lines in Peru that can only be fully appreciated from the air, and numerous ancient artworks that appear to depict astronauts or spacecraft. His theory suggested that ancient gods and angels described in religious texts were actually alien visitors. The ancient astronaut hypothesis has been thoroughly criticized by archaeologists and historians who demonstrate that ancient peoples had the knowledge, tools, and motivation to create these wonders without extraterrestrial help. However, the theory raises an interesting question. If we assume advanced civilizations have existed elsewhere in the galaxy for millions of years longer than humanity, and if interstellar travel is possible, why wouldn't Earth have been visited in the distant past? While the specific evidence cited by ancient astronaut theorists is generally debunked, the broader philosophical question of whether Earth has ever been visited remains open. The Exeter incident of September 3, 1965, involved multiple police officers and civilians witnessing a large, silent object with brilliant pulsating red lights. 18-year-old Norman Muscarello was hitchhiking near Exeter, New Hampshire, when he saw an object with blinding lights approaching him. Terrified, he flagged down a passing car and was taken to the police station. Officer Eugene Bertrand, who had earlier that evening spoken with a distraught motorist who reported a flying object following her car, accompanied Muscarello back to the area. Both men witnessed a massive object rise from behind trees, tilting and wobbling as bright red lights pulsed across its surface. The object was completely silent. They were later joined by Officer David Hunt, who also witnessed the object. All three men filed official reports, and their accounts were consistent and detailed. Project Blue Book investigated and initially tried to explain it as a military operation called Big Blast, but the Air Force later confirmed no such operation occurred that night. Unable to provide a conventional explanation, Project Blue Book eventually listed the case as unidentified. The credibility of police officers as witnesses, combined with the multiple sightings in the area that night, made the Exeter incident one of the most credible UFO cases of the 1960s. In December 1980, the same month as the Rendlesham Forest incident, something extraordinary was happening on the other side of the Atlantic. The Trans-en-Provence case in France is unique because it was investigated by JEPAN, an official French government agency dedicated to studying UFOs. On January 8, 1981, farmer Renato Nicolai observed a whistling sound and saw a lead-colored, disc-shaped object descend and briefly land on his property before taking off at high speed. The object left a circular trace in the ground. What makes this case exceptional is the scientific response. Japan investigators arrived within days and collected soil samples, plant samples, and took measurements. Laboratory analysis revealed something remarkable. The soil and plants showed unusual biochemical changes. The plants showed signs of premature aging, and the soil structure had been altered in ways consistent with exposure to intense heat or electromagnetic radiation. The chlorophyll in the plants was significantly reduced, and various amino acids showed abnormal concentrations. The results were published in peer-reviewed scientific journals. No conventional explanation, not a helicopter, not a hoax, not a natural phenomenon, could account for the physical evidence. The Transi-en-Provence case remains one of the best documented instances of physical trace evidence associated with a UFO landing. The Fermi paradox, named after physicist Enrico Fermi, poses a question central to the UFO debate. If the universe is so vast and old, where is everybody? The paradox highlights the contradiction between the high probability of extraterrestrial civilizations existing and the complete lack of contact or evidence. The Milky Way galaxy alone contains hundreds of billions of stars, many with planets in habitable zones. Given the age of the universe, 13.8 billion years, even slow interstellar travel would have allowed a single civilization to colonize the entire galaxy many times over. So why haven't we detected signals, found artifacts, or been openly contacted? Various solutions have been proposed. Perhaps civilizations destroy themselves before achieving interstellar travel. Perhaps they exist but hide deliberately. Perhaps we're the first intelligent species, or perhaps the universe is teeming with life but we lack the technology to detect it. UFO researchers argue that perhaps the Fermi paradox is already resolved. They are here, and have been here, but for reasons we don't understand, contact remains ambiguous and unofficial. The paradox reminds us that the question isn't just, are we alone? But if we're not alone, why does it seem like we are? The Maury Island incident of June 21, 1947, occurred just 3 days before Kenneth Arnold's famous sighting that coined the term flying saucer. Harbor Patrolman Harold Dahl claimed that while on patrol near Maury Island, Washington, he and his crew observed 6 donut-shaped objects in the sky. One appeared to be malfunctioning and was being escorted by the others. The damaged craft allegedly dropped hot, slag-like material onto the boat below, killing Dahl's dog and injuring his son. Dahl collected samples of the strange material. The next day, a mysterious man in a black suit visited Dahl and, over breakfast, told him details about the sighting that Dahl hadn't yet shared with anyone, then warned him not to discuss the incident, one of the first Men in Black reports. Kenneth Arnold himself investigated this case at the request of publisher Raymond Palmer. 2 Air Force investigators who looked into the incident died when their plane crashed carrying samples of the material. The official conclusion was that the entire incident was a hoax, and Dahl later admitted fabricating parts of the story. However, questions remain. If it was simply a hoax, why did it attract such intense interest? Why did investigators die? And who was the man who visited Dahl? The case remains controversial, with some researchers believing something genuine happened that was later covered up with a false hoax admission. The 1976 Canary Islands sighting represents one of the most well-documented cases involving multiple types of witnesses and even a scientific analysis published by the Spanish Air Force. On June 22, 1976, multiple witnesses across the islands, including doctors, teachers, and a Spanish Navy corvette crew, observed a massive, transparent spherical object containing what appeared to be a platform with 2 large, human-like figures. The sphere was enormous. Witnesses estimated it at around 600 feet in diameter. It moved slowly, changed colors, and was visible for approximately 40 minutes. Witnesses described seeing a tunnel of light connecting the sphere to Earth. What makes this case extraordinary is that the Spanish Air Force conducted a thorough investigation and published a detailed report concluding that the witnesses were credible, the object was real, and it was not any known conventional aircraft or natural phenomenon. The report, authored by Air Force General Carlos Castro Cavero, stated that the phenomenon displayed physical characteristics and behavior that were well outside the possibilities of our current technology. The Spanish military's willingness to officially conclude that something genuinely anomalous had occurred represents a rare example of government transparency on UFO phenomena. The concept of the Drake equation, formulated by astronomer Frank Drake in 1961, attempts to estimate the number of detectable extraterrestrial civilizations in our galaxy. The equation considers factors like the rate of star formation, the fraction of stars with planets, the number of habitable planets per star system, the fraction that develop life, the fraction that develop intelligent life, the fraction that develop detectable technology, and how long such civilizations broadcast signals. Depending on the values you assign to these variables, most of which are highly uncertain, the number of civilizations could range from us to millions. What's fascinating is how the equation has evolved as our knowledge has improved. When Drake first proposed it, we didn't know if other stars had planets at all. Now we know planetary systems are common, and planets in habitable zones are abundant. This makes the silence more puzzling and gives weight to the question raised by UFO phenomena. If intelligent life is common, and if even a tiny fraction develops space travel, shouldn't we see evidence? The Drake equation frames the UFO question within legitimate scientific inquiry, asking not do aliens exist, but if they exist, how many should there be, and why haven't we definitively detected them? From military investigations published in peer-reviewed journals to crashed objects hauled away on military trucks, from the mathematical probability of alien civilizations to mysterious visitors who know things they shouldn't, each fact reveals another facet of this enduring mystery. We're now halfway through our journey, and the phenomenon only grows more complex, more layered, more resistant to simple explanations. The Colares UFO flap in Brazil during 1977 represents one of the most disturbing series of UFO encounters on record. Residents of Colares, a small island community in northern Brazil, reported being attacked by small, box-like objects that emitted beams of light. These beams allegedly caused burns, puncture wounds, and symptoms similar to radiation exposure. Victims reported feeling weak, experiencing headaches and nausea, and some showed small puncture marks on their skin that medical personnel documented. The incidents became so frequent and frightening that residents organized night watches, and many fled the island. The Brazilian Air Force launched Operation Saucer, sending a team led by Captain Urange Hollander to investigate. The team spent months on the island, documenting over 80 separate incidents, taking photographs, and interviewing witnesses. Captain Hollander's official report included detailed drawings and photographs of the objects. Years later, shortly before his death, Hollander gave interviews admitting that he and his team had indeed witnessed the UFOs and that he believed they were of extraterrestrial origin. He claimed his superiors had ordered the investigation's findings to be classified. The Colares case is unique because it suggests not just observation but seemingly hostile action, raising disturbing questions about the intent behind some UFO phenomena. The concept of cattle mutilation entered UFO law in the 1970s when ranchers, primarily in the American West, began reporting dead livestock found under mysterious circumstances. The animals, usually cattle or horses, were found with surgical precision removal of organs, eyes, tongues, and reproductive organs. The cuts appeared to have been made with extreme precision, possibly using heat that cauterized as it cut. Strangely, there was often no blood at the scene, and scavengers avoided the carcasses. Ranchers reported finding no tracks or signs of struggle, and in some cases, the carcasses were found in locations suggesting they had been dropped from above. While many explanations have been proposed, predators, scavengers, natural decomposition, cults, or government testing, none fully account for all the observed characteristics. Some investigators have reported finding increased radiation at mutilation sites or unusual chemical compounds in the soil. UFO researchers have connected some mutilation cases with reports of strange lights or craft seen in the area around the time of death. Whether these incidents represent a genuine mystery, misunderstood natural processes, or terrestrial perpetrators using the cattle mutilation narrative as cover, they remain a disturbing and unexplained phenomenon in rural communities. The Hudson Valley UFO sightings from 1982 to 1986 involved over 7,000 reported sightings of a massive, V-shaped craft or multiple objects flying in formation. Witnesses described an object that was several football fields in size, moving silently at very low altitudes, sometimes just 100 feet above the ground. The craft had multiple colored lights, usually in a distinctive pattern. What made these sightings remarkable was their frequency, the number of witnesses, and their proximity to populated areas, including New York City's northern suburbs. Witnesses included scientists, police officers, and even a meteorologist. The sightings were so common that people would gather in certain locations hoping to see the object. The FAA and local authorities investigated but provided no satisfying explanation. Some researchers suggested the sightings were small aircraft flying in formation with lights, deliberately creating the illusion of a large craft. However, many witnesses insisted that what they saw was a single, solid, structured object, not separate planes. The sheer volume of sightings in a densely populated area over several years makes the Hudson Valley Wave one of the most significant mass UFO events in U.S. history. The Betty Andrea's son abduction case, first reported in 1967 but investigated extensively in the late 1970s, is considered one of the most detailed and bizarre abduction accounts on record. Betty, a devout Christian mother of 7 from Massachusetts, reported being taken aboard a craft where she underwent medical examinations. What distinguishes her account is the wealth of detail and the religious or spiritual overtones. Under hypnotic regression conducted over several years by trained investigators, Betty described encounters with beings she initially interpreted as angels, a journey through strange landscapes, and profound spiritual experiences including seeing a giant bird that transformed into fire. Her account included technological details about the craft and beings that seemed beyond her knowledge. Several of her family members corroborated seeing strange lights and experiencing missing time that night. Investigators, led by respected UFO researcher Raymond Fowler, administered multiple psychological tests confirming Betty's sincerity and mental stability. The case raises fascinating questions about the intersection of UFO phenomena and spiritual or religious experiences. Are these separate phenomena being confused, or is there a deeper connection between what we call alien encounters and what previous generations called divine visitation? The term disclosure has become central to UFO discussions, referring to the hypothetical official acknowledgment by world governments that extraterrestrial life exists and has been visiting Earth. Many researchers believe governments, particularly the United States, possess definitive proof of alien visitation but have withheld it for reasons ranging from fear of public panic to protection of advanced technology. The Disclosure Project, founded by Dr. Stephen Greer in 1993, gathered testimony from hundreds of government, military, and corporate witnesses who claimed direct knowledge of UFO encounters, crash retrievals, and reverse engineering programs. In 2001, Greer held a press conference at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., where over 20 military and government witnesses testified about their UFO experiences. These weren't fringe figures, they included former FAA officials, military officers with top-secret clearances, and NASA employees. Their testimony suggested the existence of special access programs dealing with UFO phenomena, operating without congressional oversight. While critics argue that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence and that testimony alone isn't sufficient proof, the credibility and backgrounds of these witnesses have kept the disclosure movement active. The question remains, if governments do possess proof, why maintain secrecy, and under what circumstances might they reveal the truth? The 1994 Ruawa, Zimbabwe school encounter we mentioned earlier had a particularly intriguing aspect that deserves deeper exploration: the message the children reported receiving. Multiple children described receiving telepathic communications about humanity's relationship with technology and the environment. The beings allegedly showed them visions of environmental destruction, polluted landscapes, dying trees, technological devastation. These messages came to children in rural Zimbabwe in 1994, before climate change was widely discussed in mainstream media and certainly before it would have been a topic in African primary schools. The consistency of these environmental messages across multiple child witnesses is striking. Dr. John Mack noted that many abduction accounts include similar warnings about humanity's impact on Earth. This raises fascinating questions. If these encounters are psychological phenomena, why do they consistently include environmental themes? If they're real encounters, why would advanced beings travel vast distances to deliver warnings to school children in Zimbabwe? Some researchers suggest that if a non-human intelligence is observing Earth, our rapid environmental changes and nuclear weapons development would be the most notable and concerning aspects of human civilization, the things that would make us visible and potentially dangerous on a cosmic scale. The O'Hare Airport incident we discussed earlier had an interesting aftermath that reveals much about institutional resistance to UFO investigations. After the Chicago Tribune broke the story based on a Freedom of Information Act request, the incident received international attention. However, the FAA's official position was to dismiss it as a weather phenomenon without conducting any investigation. What's revealing is the response from the pilots' union and aviation safety experts. Many pointed out that if a weather phenomenon created a hole in cloud cover above one of the busiest airports in the world, it should absolutely be investigated for aviation safety reasons. The National Aviation Reporting Center on Anomalous Phenomena, founded by NASA scientist Dr. Richard Haynes, documented the case in detail and noted that the FAA's refusal to investigate represented a potential safety concern. If unknown objects can hover over major airports undetected and unidentified, what else might be in controlled airspace? The incident highlighted a troubling pattern. When UFO sightings occur in situations where investigation is clearly warranted for safety reasons, authorities often avoid investigation precisely because the UFO stigma might be embarrassing. This creates a paradox where the subject's controversial nature prevents it from receiving the serious attention that the safety implications demand. The concept of Foo Fighters from World War II had a modern equivalent during the conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. Multiple military personnel reported encountering unidentified objects in restricted airspace. In 2004, the same year as the USS Nimitz encounter, Navy pilots operating over Iraq reported seeing objects that appeared on radar and infrared but displayed flight characteristics beyond known technology. More recently, footage has emerged from military sources showing unidentified objects near military vessels and aircraft in the Persian Gulf. What makes these modern encounters particularly significant is the technology available to document them: multiple sensor systems, infrared, radar, visual confirmation, and high-definition video. Unlike historical cases that rely on witness testimony alone, these incidents provide technical data that can be analyzed. The Department of Defense has acknowledged that encounters with unidentified aerial phenomena in military operating areas represent both a safety concern and a potential intelligence threat. If these objects are foreign adversaries' technology, they represent a significant security concern. If they're not, the question of what they are becomes even more pressing. Modern military encounters suggest that whatever the phenomenon is, it hasn't disappeared with advancing technology. If anything, better sensors are detecting it more frequently. From hostile beams of light in Brazilian villages to telepathic warnings about Earth's future, from institutional resistance to investigation despite safety concerns to modern military encounters documented on multiple sensors, the phenomenon continues to evolve with our technology while maintaining its essential mystery. The questions grow more urgent as our detection capabilities improve, yet definitive answers remain frustratingly elusive. The Zamora landing of April 24, 1964, in Socorro, New Mexico, is considered one of the most credible UFO cases due to the witness's reputation and the physical evidence left behind. Police officer Lonnie Zamora, a respected member of the community with no interest in UFOs, was pursuing a speeding car when he heard a roar and saw a flame in the sky. He drove toward what he thought might be a dynamite shack explosion and encountered an oval, metallic craft standing on legs in an arroyo. He observed two small figures in white coveralls near the craft. When he approached closer, the object emitted a roaring sound, lifted off on a blue flame, and flew away at incredible speed. Zamora immediately radioed his sighting, and within minutes, other officers arrived at the scene. They found 4 deep impressions in the ground where the craft's legs had been, and several smoldering bushes. The case was investigated extensively by Project Blue Book, with astronomer J. Allen Hynek traveling to the site. Hynek, usually skeptical, found Zamora completely credible and could find no conventional explanation. The landing marks and scorched vegetation were photographed and documented. To this day, despite extensive investigation, no one has provided a satisfactory conventional explanation for what Lonnie Zamora witnessed. The Veggie police car chase in 1956 remains one of the most dramatic UFO pursuit cases. 2 police officers, Joseph Lukasek and Clifford Shaw, were on patrol near Veggie, North Dakota, when they observed a bright light in the sky. Initially thinking it was an aircraft in distress, they attempted to approach it. What followed was a high-speed chase lasting approximately 30 minutes, covering over 100 miles across North Dakota and into Minnesota. The object would slow down as if waiting for them, then accelerate when they got close. At one point, the object was directly overhead, illuminating the interior of their patrol car with such intensity that they could read fine print on documents. The officers described the object as shaped like a disc, with brilliant lights. They were eventually joined by other law enforcement officers who also witnessed the object. The chase finally ended when the object accelerated upward at tremendous speed and disappeared. Both officers filed detailed reports, and the incident was investigated by Project Blue Book, which could offer no explanation. The case is particularly compelling because it involved multiple law enforcement officers, covered a large geographic area, and lasted long enough that the witnesses had ample time to observe the object's characteristics and behavior. The Washington, D.C. UFO incidents of July 1952, occurring over 2 consecutive weekends, represent one of the most significant UFO events in American history because they occurred over the nation's capital and involved military scrambles. On the night of July 19th, radar operators at Washington National Airport detected 7 unidentified objects on their scopes. The objects were moving at speeds ranging from stationary to 7,000 miles per hour. The objects were also visible on radar at Andrews Air Force Base. When F-94 interceptor jets were scrambled, the objects vanished from radar, only to reappear once the jets left the area. The following weekend, on July 26th, the objects returned. This time, multiple witnesses on the ground saw bright lights maneuvering over the Capitol and White House. Jets were again scrambled, and one pilot reported seeing a bright light that disappeared when he approached. The incidents caused public alarm and led to the largest press conference held by the Air Force since World War II. The official explanation was that the radar returns were caused by a temperature inversion creating false returns, but this didn't explain the visual sightings by experienced pilots and ground observers, nor why temperature inversions would create objects that fled when approached by jets. The Allagash abductions of August 1976 involved 4 men, twin brothers Jack and Jim Weiner, and their friends Chuck Rack and Charlie Fultz, who were on a camping trip in the wilderness of Maine. While night fishing on Allagash Lake, they observed a bright light approaching them. The light enveloped their canoe, and the next thing they remembered was being back on shore with their campfire burned down to coals, despite having just built it up before getting in the canoe. They experienced missing time of several hours. In the following years, all 4 men began having nightmares and anxiety. Eventually, they underwent separate hypnotic regression sessions where each described being taken aboard a craft and subjected to medical examinations by beings with large heads and dark eyes. What makes this case particularly strong is that it involved multiple witnesses who were separated during hypnosis and told consistent stories with similar details. All 4 passed polygraph tests about their experiences. They were well-educated men. The Weiner twins were artists, Rack was a social worker, and Fultz was a commercial artist. They had nothing to gain and much to lose by coming forward. The consistency of their independent accounts, combined with the physical missing time they all experienced, makes the Allagash case one of the most compelling abduction accounts in UFO literature. The STS-48 Space Shuttle Discovery footage from September 1991 shows objects in space that appear to change direction suddenly and accelerate away at tremendous speed. The footage, recorded by one of the shuttle's cameras, shows several objects moving in a straight line. Suddenly, a flash of light appears, and the objects instantly change direction and accelerate away at what would be impossible speeds if they were debris or ice particles, the usual explanation offered by NASA. Some researchers have calculated that if these were particles being pushed by the shuttle's thruster exhaust, they would need to be accelerating at hundreds of times the force of gravity. UFO researchers argue this is evidence of craft in orbit around Earth, possibly observing the shuttle. NASA's position is that the objects are ice particles floating near the shuttle, illuminated by the sun, and that the apparent acceleration is an optical illusion caused by camera movement. However, analysis of the footage by independent researchers suggests the camera was stationary during the key moments. This footage, along with other NASA recordings showing unusual objects in space, has fueled theories about what might be sharing orbital space with our satellites and spacecraft. The debate over the STS-48 footage continues, with each side using the same video to support contradictory conclusions. The astronomical theory of UFOs suggests that many sightings might be misidentifications of celestial objects, but it also raises an intriguing question: could extraterrestrial civilizations be using natural astronomical events as cover for their activities? Venus, the planet most often mistaken for a UFO, is extraordinarily bright and appears in the evening or morning sky. The Moon, Jupiter, bright stars, and satellites all account for a significant percentage of UFO reports. However, some researchers have noted that occasionally, dramatic UFO encounters occur when these bright planets are visible, leading to speculation that intelligent craft might position themselves near bright astronomical objects to hide in plain sight. If a craft wanted to be seen but maintained deniability, hovering near Venus or another bright object would be an effective strategy. More intriguingly, some abductees have reported being told by their alleged captors that they sometimes masquerade as stars or planets to avoid detection. While this could simply be confabulation or the human mind trying to make sense of ambiguous stimuli, it raises an interesting point about the intelligence that might be behind a UFO strategy, appearing just strange enough to intrigue certain observers while maintaining enough ambiguity to avoid forcing the issue of contact. It's a theory that acknowledges the prosaic explanations while suggesting that intelligence might deliberately exploit those explanations. The encounter at Voronezh, Russia, in September 1989, was remarkable because it was officially acknowledged by the Soviet news agency TASS at a time when the Soviet Union was opening up under glasnost. Multiple witnesses, including several school children, reported seeing a large, spherical craft land in a park. 3 beings emerged, described as approximately 9 feet tall with small heads and 3 eyes. The beings had a small robot with them. When one of the beings pointed a tube-like device at a teenage boy, the boy allegedly vanished, only to reappear moments later. The craft then departed. Soviet scientists investigated and claimed to have found a 40-foot circle where the soil was compressed and showed unusual properties. They also reported finding unusual rocks at the site that contained an unusually high concentration of a rare element. The case received international attention because TASS reported it as a legitimate event worth investigating, not as a hoax or misidentification. Western UFO researchers were intrigued by this rare instance of Soviet official acknowledgement of a UFO event. Skeptics have questioned the reliability of child witnesses and suggested the incident might have been mass hysteria or a misidentified helicopter, but the physical evidence and official investigation make it difficult to dismiss entirely. The concept of underwater UFOs or USOs, unidentified submerged objects, represents a lesser-known aspect of the phenomenon. Military personnel, particularly naval officers and submariners, have reported encounters with unknown objects that enter and exit water at high speeds, or that attract moving underwater at speeds that far exceed any known submarine technology. The Shag Harbor incident we discussed earlier is one example. Another occurred in 1963 during U.S. Navy exercises off Puerto Rico, when multiple ships tracked an object on sonar moving at over 150 knots underwater, far faster than any submarine of that era or even today. The object reportedly descended to depths of 27,000 feet, well beyond the capacity of any known vessel. Russian naval records, declassified after the Cold War, include numerous reports from submarine crews encountering unidentified objects that would pace their vessels at depth. Some reports describe objects emerging from the ocean and flying into the sky. The ocean, covering 71% of Earth's surface and largely unexplored in its depths, would be an ideal place to hide a presence. If UFOs have been visiting Earth for extended periods, establishing bases underwater would be logical, hidden from human observation for most of history, with easy access to unlimited resources. The USO phenomenon suggests that the aerial sightings we focus on might be just one aspect of a broader presence. From respected police officers witnessing landings with physical evidence to objects in space performing impossible maneuvers, from the Soviet Union officially acknowledging encounters to mysterious objects in our oceans moving at impossible speeds, the phenomenon reveals itself across every domain: air, space, and sea. With each fact, the picture becomes not clearer, but richer and more complex. The Aurora, Texas UFO crash of April 17, 1897, represents one of the earliest alleged crash and retrieval cases in the United States. According to reports in the local newspaper, the Dallas Morning News, an airship crashed into a windmill on the property of Judge J.S. Proctor. The object allegedly exploded, scattering debris across several acres. Most remarkably, the paper reported that a pilot was found in the wreckage, described as not of this world and believed to be from Mars. The being was allegedly given a Christian burial in the local cemetery. The story appeared during the Great Airship Mystery of 1896 to 1897, when hundreds of people across the United States reported seeing mysterious airships in the sky, years before the Wright brothers' first flight. Skeptics note that the town was dying after the railroad bypassed it, and the story might have been a hoax to attract attention and settlers. However, some researchers who investigated the site decades later claimed to find unusual metal fragments with strange properties. In the 1970s, metal detector surveys of the cemetery allegedly located a grave with metal fragments, but town officials refused to allow exhumation. Whether hoax or genuine mystery, the Aurora crash represents the earliest American UFO crash retrieval story, predating Roswell by half a century. The Lakenheath Bentwaters incident of August 13 to 14, 1956, involved RAF and USAF personnel and is considered one of the strongest UFO cases due to the combination of ground and airborne radar, visual sightings by military personnel, and official documentation. British RAF radar operators at Lakenheath detected an object moving at 4,000 miles per hour, performing right-angle turns at speed, maneuvers that would be impossible for aircraft of that era or even today. The object was also tracked by American radar at the nearby Bentwaters RAF base. RAF fighters were scrambled to intercept. The pilot achieved radar lock on the object, but it suddenly moved behind his aircraft, following him. No matter what evasive maneuvers the pilot attempted, the object maintained position behind him. The pilot, understandably terrified, was eventually ordered to return to base. The incident was documented in Project Blue Book files and was later classified by the Condon Committee, a major UFO study, as unexplained, noting this is the most puzzling and unusual case in the radar visual files. There is no conventional explanation for this sighting. The case is particularly strong because it involved trained military personnel, multiple independent radar systems, and an object that demonstrated awareness of the interceptor's presence. The Petrozavodsk phenomenon of September 20, 1977, involved an enormous luminous object observed over a vast area of northwestern Russia and Finland. Hundreds of witnesses across multiple countries reported seeing a bright, star-like object that suddenly expanded into a massive, jellyfish-shaped form in the sky. The jellyfish appeared to be hundreds of feet across, with rays or streamers of light extending from it. The display lasted for approximately 10 to 12 minutes before the object departed at high speed. What makes this case particularly intriguing is that it occurred at the exact time the Soviet Union was launching a Cosmos satellite from Plesetsk Cosmodrome, about 200 miles from Petrozavodsk. The official explanation is that witnesses saw the rocket launch creating unusual atmospheric effects. However, some details don't quite fit. Witnesses reported the object was stationary for long periods, appeared to direct beams of light at the ground, which damaged windows and created holes in glass in Petrozavodsk, and the phenomenon lasted much longer than a typical rocket launch would be visible. Soviet scientists investigated and published papers about the incident. Some concluded it was the rocket launch, others couldn't explain all the reported effects. The case demonstrates the challenge of distinguishing between prosaic explanations and genuinely anomalous phenomena, particularly when unusual but identifiable events coincide with strange reports. The concept of screen memories in abduction research suggests that human minds might substitute more acceptable images for traumatic or incomprehensible experiences. Abduction researchers noticed that many people who reported seeing UFOs also initially remembered encountering owls, deer, or other animals with unusual characteristics, often animals with oversized eyes. Under hypnotic regression, these memories sometimes transformed into recollections of alien beings. Dr. John Mack and other researchers theorized that the human mind, confronted with something utterly foreign to our experience, might substitute a more familiar image, an owl's large eyes becoming the large eyes of a gray alien. This theory has sparked debate. Skeptics use it as evidence that all abduction accounts are false memories or misinterpreted dreams, since the witnesses are admitting their memories aren't reliable. However, proponents argue it explains why genuine encounters might be underreported. People experience something strange, remember animals, and never realize they've had a close encounter. The screen memory concept raises profound questions about consciousness, memory, and how our minds interpret the incomprehensible. It also suggests that the number of people who've had experiences with the phenomenon might be much larger than the number who recognize and report UFO encounters. The Yukon Territory UFO sighting of December 11, 1996, involved over 30 witnesses across a large geographic area who reported seeing a massive spacecraft. Witnesses driving along the Klondike Highway described an object so large it blocked out stars as it passed overhead. Some estimated it to be a mile wide. Multiple witnesses described a craft with a smooth, dark surface and a series of lights along its edge. The object moved slowly and silently. What makes this case particularly credible is the investigation by Martin Jasek, a professional engineer and UFO researcher, who interviewed witnesses extensively and created detailed reports correlating sighting times, locations, and descriptions. The witnesses were consistent in describing a structured craft of enormous proportions. No conventional explanation has been found. No aircraft, military exercises, or astronomical events match the descriptions. The Yukon case is notable because it occurred in a remote area with low light pollution, clear skies, and witnesses who were familiar with aircraft and aurora borealis, the typical explanations for northern light sightings. The consistency of independent witnesses across a wide area, describing an object of impossible size moving slowly at low altitude, makes this one of the strongest cases for a truly anomalous craft. The incident at Cisco Grove, California, in September 1964, is one of the most bizarre and terrifying close encounter cases on record. Donald Shrum, a 26-year-old Air Force technician, was bow hunting when he became separated from his companions. As darkness fell, he climbed a tree to wait out the night. He then witnessed what he thought was a helicopter searching for him, but it moved silently. Soon, he observed several humanoid figures and a robot-like being approaching his tree. Over the course of the night, the beings attempted to reach him in the tree. Shrum defended himself by setting fire to pieces of his clothing and dropping them on the beings, which temporarily drove them away. At one point, the robot-like being emitted a gas or vapor that caused Shrum to lose consciousness briefly. This pattern repeated throughout the night. The beings would approach, Shrum would fight them off with fire, they would retreat and return. The ordeal lasted approximately 6 hours. When dawn came, the beings departed. Shrum eventually reunited with his companions and immediately reported his experience. He showed no signs of mental illness, passed polygraph tests, and remained consistent in his account. Under hypnotic regression years later, he provided the same details. The Cisco Grove case stands out because it describes a prolonged, hostile encounter where the witness actively defended himself, rather than the passive observation or abduction scenarios more commonly reported. The concept of crash retrieval programs suggests that governments, particularly the United States, have recovered crashed UFOs and have been attempting to reverse engineer the technology. Bob Lazar's claims about Area 51 are the most famous example, but he's far from alone. Colonel Philip Corso, who served on President Eisenhower's National Security Council and later headed the Army's Foreign Technology Division at the Pentagon, published a book in 1997 claiming that he personally managed the distribution of alien technology recovered from Roswell to American defense contractors. Corso claimed that technologies like fiber optics, lasers, integrated circuits, and night vision were actually back-engineered from alien craft. While his claims are controversial and many details have been disputed, Corso had legitimate military credentials and security clearances. Other whistleblowers have made similar claims about special access programs dealing with recovered craft. The challenge is that these claims, if true, would be among the most highly classified secrets in existence, making verification nearly impossible. Skeptics note that all the technologies Corso mentioned had documented terrestrial development histories. However, believers argue that the documented histories could be cover stories, and that the classified world operates with its own reality separate from what the public sees. The crash retrieval theory, if true, would explain the government's intense secrecy and the apparent technological leaps made during the 20th century. The 1973 UFO wave in the United States represents one of the most intense periods of UFO activity in American history. During October and November of 1973, thousands of UFO reports flooded in from across the country. The wave included the Pascagoula abduction we discussed earlier, but also numerous close encounters, landing traces, and encounters involving police and military witnesses. On October 18th alone, over 150 sightings were reported to various authorities. The wave included the Coyne helicopter incident, where Army Reserve Captain Lawrence Coyne and his crew had a near collision with a UFO that appeared to take control of their helicopter, lifting it from 1,700 feet to 3,500 feet despite Coyne pulling the collective down. Multiple ground witnesses observed the incident. The 1973 wave also included numerous reports of humanoid beings associated with the craft. The concentration of sightings led to intense media coverage and official concern. J. Allen Hynek, consulting for the Air Force, investigated many cases and found numerous reports he could not explain. The wave eventually subsided in December, leaving researchers with thousands of reports, many from credible witnesses with corroborating evidence, but no definitive explanation. UFO waves like this challenge the idea that all sightings are individual misidentifications, as they involve concentrated periods of heightened activity that span large geographic regions. From 19th century airship crashes to Cold War radar tracking objects that toy with interceptor jets, from witnesses fighting off beings in trees to military officers claiming alien technology seeded our modern world, the accounts span more than a century, yet remain remarkably consistent in their strangeness. We're approaching the end of our journey, but the mystery shows no signs of resolution. The Michalak encounter of May 20, 1967, in Falcon Lake, Manitoba, is unique because it left the witness with physical injuries that were medically documented. Stefan Michalak, a 51-year-old industrial mechanic and amateur geologist, was prospecting when he encountered two disc-shaped objects. One descended and landed. Michalak observed it for about half an hour, noting its metallic appearance and hearing mechanical sounds from within. When he approached and touched the craft, it was so hot it melted his glove. Suddenly, a grid-like exhaust vent opened and expelled hot gas directly onto his chest, igniting his shirt and undershirt. The craft then departed. Michalak suffered first-degree burns in a distinctive grid pattern on his chest and abdomen, burns that doctors could not explain. He also experienced symptoms consistent with radiation exposure: nausea, vomiting, weight loss, and a drop in white blood cell count. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police investigated and found a circular area at the landing site where vegetation was flattened and soil samples showed elevated levels of radioactivity. Medical examinations confirmed his injuries were real and unusual. The grid pattern of burns remained visible for years. Michalak gained nothing from his experience. He faced ridicule and struggled with health problems for years afterward. The case stands as one of the few with documented physical evidence directly linking human injury to a UFO encounter. The concept of dimensional explanations for UFO phenomena has gained traction among some researchers who find the extraterrestrial hypothesis insufficient. This theory suggests that UFOs might not be spacecraft from distant planets but manifestations of beings or intelligence from parallel dimensions or alternate realities existing alongside our own. This would explain several puzzling aspects of UFO phenomena: why they seem to appear and disappear instantaneously, why they sometimes seem to violate physical laws like inertia and acceleration limits, why they've been reported throughout human history, suggesting they're not visitors but neighbors, and why contact remains ambiguous rather than official. The interdimensional hypothesis draws on quantum physics concepts like multiple dimensions beyond the three spatial dimensions we experience. Jacques Vallée, a renowned computer scientist and UFO researcher, has championed this theory, arguing that the phenomenon is more like paranormal activity than nuts and bolts spacecraft. He points to the similarities between UFO encounters, religious visions, fairy folklore, and other paranormal experiences throughout history. Whether this theory is correct or not, it represents an attempt to create a framework that accounts for the truly bizarre aspects of UFO encounters that the simple alien spacecraft model struggles to explain. The Reagan Initiative refers to a curious pattern in President Ronald Reagan's speeches where he repeatedly referenced the unifying effect an alien threat might have on humanity. Most notably, in a 1987 speech to the United Nations General Assembly, Reagan said, "I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world." He made similar comments on at least 3 other occasions. UFO researchers have long speculated about what might have prompted these repeated references. Some note that Reagan had been briefed on UFO incidents during his presidency. Others point to an incident in 1974, when Reagan, then governor of California, claimed to have witnessed a UFO while flying on a plane. The pilot and passengers also observed the object. Reagan's chief of staff confirmed that Reagan took the sighting seriously and told many people about it. The alien threat speeches have fueled speculation. Was Reagan preparing the public for disclosure? Was he simply using a rhetorical device? Or did he know something that made him genuinely consider how humanity might respond to alien contact? The fact that a sitting US president would invoke alien threats repeatedly in major speeches suggests that, at minimum, the concept of non-human intelligence was something he had thought about seriously. The Black Knight satellite is an urban legend claiming that an alien satellite has been orbiting Earth for approximately 13,000 years. The story combines several unrelated events: unusual radio signals detected by Nikola Tesla in 1899, which he believed might be from Mars, a 1954 report of 2 satellites detected in Earth orbit before any nation had launched satellites, and most famously, photographs taken during Space Shuttle mission STS-88 in 1998 showing a dark object in orbit. The STS-88 photographs are the most compelling visual evidence cited by believers. However, NASA has explained that the object is a thermal blanket that was lost during an EVA spacewalk, a mundane explanation supported by the blanket's documented loss during the mission. The story of the Black Knight has been thoroughly debunked by skeptics who've traced how unrelated events were combined into a single narrative through internet forums. Yet it remains popular, perhaps because it captures something appealing: the idea that humanity has been under observation for millennia, that evidence of this observation is hiding in plain sight, and that space agencies know more than they're telling. The Black Knight legend demonstrates how UFO mythology develops, separate events get connected, speculation becomes assertion, and eventually, fiction becomes treated as fact by some communities online. The citizen hearing on disclosure, held at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. from April 29 to May 3, 2013, was an unprecedented event. Organized by UFO researcher Stephen Bassett, the hearing brought together 40 witnesses, including military personnel, government officials, and researchers, to testify before 6 former members of Congress about UFO encounters and the alleged government cover-up. Witnesses testified for 30 hours over 5 days, presenting evidence and personal testimony about UFO encounters, crash retrievals, and government knowledge. The former Congress members included senators and representatives who, while no longer in office, brought credibility to the proceedings. The hearing was modeled on an actual congressional hearing, following similar procedures. Testimonies included accounts from Air Force officers who'd been at nuclear missile sites during UFO incidents, radar operators who'd tracked unknown objects, and intelligence officials who claimed knowledge of crash retrieval programs. While the hearing had no official government sanction or power, it represented an effort to create public pressure for official disclosure. The fact that it could attract dozens of credible witnesses willing to testify under oath about their UFO experiences suggests either a widespread delusion or a genuine phenomenon that deserves serious investigation. The hearing was later made into a documentary and remains the most comprehensive public gathering of UFO testimony in history. The Aguadilla UFO incident of April 25, 2013, was captured on infrared camera by a U.S. Customs and Border Protection aircraft near Rafael Hernandez Airport in Puerto Rico. The video shows an object moving at high speed at low altitude, estimated at approximately 80 miles per hour. What makes this case extraordinary is what the object does. It appears to enter the ocean without slowing down, travels underwater for a considerable distance, then emerges and continues flying. At one point in the video, the object appears to split into 2 separate objects, both of which continue at high speed. The video has been analyzed extensively by the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies, which concluded that the object displays characteristics that don't match any known aircraft or drone. The object had no visible means of propulsion, no wings or rotors, yet maintained controlled flight at varying altitudes and speeds. The transition from air to water and back to air, without apparent loss of velocity or control, is particularly puzzling. No known vehicle can perform this seamlessly. The Puerto Rico Department of Homeland Security confirmed the video's authenticity but has offered no explanation for what was filmed. The case is strengthened by the fact that it was captured on multiple sensors, infrared and radar, by professional operators who were tracking it as an unknown object in controlled airspace near an airport. The concept of consciousness as a factor in UFO encounters has become increasingly discussed in research circles. Multiple experiencers have reported that UFO encounters seem to involve mental or psychic components, telepathic communication, a sense of connection with the intelligence behind the phenomena, or the feeling that the encounter was somehow meant for them specifically. Some researchers, including the late Dr. John Mack, believed that UFO encounters might involve an intersection between consciousness and physical reality that we don't yet understand. This theory suggests that the observer's state of consciousness might actually play a role in the manifestation or perception of the phenomenon. This would explain why UFOs sometimes seem to respond to witnesses' thoughts, why multiple people can witness the same event but remember different details, and why physical evidence is sometimes ambiguous or disappears. Remote viewing studies, meditation practices, and consciousness research in quantum physics have all touched on the idea that consciousness might interact with physical reality in ways mainstream science hasn't fully accepted. If UFO phenomena involve consciousness as well as physical craft, it would revolutionize not just our understanding of UFOs, but our understanding of reality itself. It's a controversial theory that blurs the line between the physical and the metaphysical, but it attempts to account for the genuinely strange psychological components of many close encounters. The 2019 admission by the US Navy that UFO videos released in 2017 showed unidentified aerial phenomena marked a watershed moment. The Navy didn't just acknowledge the videos were real, they issued new guidelines for pilots to report UAP encounters, implicitly acknowledging that such encounters happen regularly enough to require standardized reporting procedures. Commander David Fravor, the pilot from the 2004 Nimitz encounter, testified before Congress, describing what he witnessed in his own words to lawmakers. In June 2020, the Senate Intelligence Committee requested a detailed report on UAPs from the Director of National Intelligence. This represented the first time in decades that the U.S. government officially treated UFOs as a serious matter worthy of congressional oversight. Former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid stated that he believed the U.S. had recovered materials from UFOs that needed to be studied. The shift in official attitude, from ridicule and denial to acknowledgment and investigation, represents the most significant change in government posture toward UFOs since Project Blue Book ended in 1969. We've moved from UFOs don't exist to they exist, we don't know what they are, and we're taking them seriously. This transformation in official acknowledgement, happening in just the past few years, suggests that either the phenomenon has become impossible to ignore, or that a deliberate strategy of gradual disclosure is underway. From physical burns in documented grid patterns to presidents invoking alien threats, from objects transitioning seamlessly between air and water to government admissions that would have been unthinkable just a decade ago, we've journeyed through 80 facts, and the phenomenon only grows richer. Let's complete our journey. The Lonnie Zamora case had a fascinating aftermath that reveals how the stigma of UFO encounters affects witnesses. After his 1964 experience, Zamora, a respected police officer, faced ridicule despite being considered highly credible by investigators. His encounter was so well documented that even Project Blue Book couldn't explain it away. However, Zamora rarely spoke about his experience afterward, uncomfortable with the attention and the mockery. He told J. Allen Hynek that he wished it had never happened. This pattern repeats across UFO cases. Credible witnesses come forward, investigators verify their credibility and find their accounts compelling, yet the witnesses often regret reporting what they saw because of the social consequences. Pilots lose credibility or face career consequences. Police officers become subjects of jokes. Military personnel face orders to remain silent. This stigma has likely suppressed countless reports from credible observers who witnessed something extraordinary but chose to remain silent rather than face professional or social repercussions. The reporting stigma means that the cases we know about likely represent only a fraction of actual encounters experienced by reliable witnesses. How many pilots, astronauts, military personnel, and other trained observers have seen something inexplicable but remained silent to protect their reputations? The concept of breakaway civilization is a controversial theory suggesting that a secret group has acquired such advanced technology, possibly from recovered UFOs, that they've essentially created a separate, hidden civilization with capabilities far beyond what's publicly known. Proponents argue this would explain why disclosure never happens. The people who know the truth have too much power and too much to lose. This theory suggests that special access programs, compartmentalized beyond congressional oversight, have been reverse engineering alien technology for decades, creating aircraft and capabilities that would seem like magic to the general public. The theory draws support from testimony by whistleblowers about secret programs, the massive black budget for classified military programs, estimated at tens of billions annually, and incidents like the 2004 Nimitz encounter where Navy pilots with top-level clearance encountered technology that seemed decades beyond anything they knew existed. Critics point out that this theory requires a conspiracy of enormous proportions sustained over decades, which seems improbable. However, defenders note that the Manhattan Project, involving over 130,000 people, remained secret until the bombs were dropped. If a breakaway civilization exists, it would represent the greatest disparity in human history between what a small group knows and controls versus what the rest of humanity understands about reality and technology. The aerial school encounter in Zimbabwe has been revisited multiple times over the years, with the witnesses, now adults, maintaining their accounts. What's particularly striking is how the experience affected these individuals into adulthood. Many describe it as a defining moment in their lives. In interviews conducted 25 years after the event, The now adult witnesses showed emotion when recounting their experiences, insisting what they saw was real. Some reported that the encounter changed their life paths, making them more environmentally conscious or spiritually aware. Psychologists note that false memories typically fade or change with time, while genuine traumatic or impactful memories remain vivid and consistent. The aerial witnesses showed the latter pattern. Additionally, several witnesses reported being troubled that something so significant, witnessed by so many, was largely dismissed or forgotten by the wider world. They felt frustrated that they had experienced something profound that others refused to take seriously. The long-term consistency of these accounts, maintained independently by dozens of individuals over decades, presents a challenge to skeptical explanations. Either something genuinely extraordinary happened to these children, or we need to understand how dozens of people can maintain consistent false memories of a shared experience for over 25 years. The zoo hypothesis is a theoretical explanation for the Fermi paradox, suggesting that extraterrestrial civilizations deliberately avoid contact with humanity, either to observe us as we might observe animals in a zoo, or to allow us to develop naturally without interference. This hypothesis could explain the pattern of UFO phenomena, why they appear frequently enough to be observed but not so openly as to force acknowledgement, why encounters seem designed to maintain ambiguity, and why, if alien intelligence is present, they haven't made formal, undeniable contact. The hypothesis suggests that there might be a galactic protocol of non-interference with developing civilizations. This theory gains interesting support from abduction accounts where beings allegedly tell experiences that open contact would be too disruptive to human civilization. Jacques Vallée has suggested a control system theory, similar to the zoo hypothesis, proposing that the phenomenon deliberately maintains a level of ambiguity, appearing just often enough to affect human consciousness and culture without forcing a paradigm shift. If the zoo hypothesis is correct, it would explain why we see what appears to be surveillance. The UFOs aren't hiding particularly well because they want to be seen occasionally, but they're not landing on the White House lawn because open contact would violate their protocols. Humanity might be in a quarantine status, observed but not engaged, until we reach some threshold of development. The connection between UFOs and nuclear facilities extends beyond the Malmstrom Air Force Base incident we discussed. Robert Hastings, a researcher who spent decades investigating this connection, documented over 150 incidents where UFOs were reported at or near nuclear weapons facilities. These incidents span from the 1940s to the present and involve facilities in the United States, the Soviet Union, Russia, and other nuclear-armed nations. Former nuclear missile launch officers have testified that UFOs have appeared during test launches, hovered over weapons storage facilities, and in multiple cases, temporarily disabled nuclear weapons systems. In 2010, Hastings organized a press conference at the National Press Club where 7 Air Force veterans testified about UFO incidents at nuclear bases. The pattern suggests either surveillance of humanity's most destructive weapons or perhaps a message. Some experiencers report being told by alleged alien beings that nuclear weapons are a concern because they affect not just Earth but somehow have broader implications. If there is an intelligence behind UFO phenomena, our development of weapons capable of destroying ourselves and contaminating the planet for millennia might reasonably attract attention. The nuclear connection suggests that whatever the phenomenon represents, it's not randomly distributed but shows an interest in humanity's most significant technological and existential developments. The establishment of the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, by the U.S. Department of Defense in July 2022 represents the most significant official UFO investigation effort since Project Blue Book. Unlike previous programs that operated in secrecy, AARO was created by congressional mandate and is required to report findings publicly. The office is tasked with detecting, identifying, and attributing objects of interest in special use airspace and assessing any associated threats to safety and national security. AARO's creation acknowledges that UAP encounters in military operating areas are frequent enough and concerning enough to warrant a permanent office dedicated to investigation. Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, AARO's first director, stated that the office receives hundreds of new reports regularly. In 2023, AARO launched a website where current and former government employees can report UAP encounters, including those related to alleged crash retrieval programs. The establishment of AARO represents a fundamental shift. UFOs are no longer a fringe topic but an official area of military and scientific investigation with congressional oversight, public reporting requirements, and dedicated resources. Whether this leads to disclosure of hidden information or simply to better understanding of prosaic phenomena misidentified as anomalous remains to be seen, but the change in official posture is itself historic. David Grush, a former Air Force intelligence officer and National Geospatial Intelligence Agency representative to the UAP task force, made extraordinary claims in 2023 that sent shockwaves through the UFO community and mainstream media. Grush, with high-level security clearances and an exemplary service record, testified before Congress that the U.S. government has been running a secret crash retrieval and reverse engineering program for decades. He claimed that the U.S. possesses non-human spacecraft and biological remains. Crucially, he testified under oath and penalty of perjury. Grush stated he had not personally seen these materials but had interviewed dozens of individuals with direct knowledge and had provided classified evidence to Congress and the Intelligence Community Inspector General, who found his claims credible and urgent. His testimony was corroborated by other witnesses, including former Navy pilots who testified about their encounters with UAPs. Skeptics note that Grush's claims are largely based on second-hand information and that no physical evidence has been presented publicly. However, the fact that someone with Grush's credentials and clearances would make such specific accusations under oath, and that the Inspector General found them credible enough to warrant investigation, suggests either a massive conspiracy or a whistleblower revealing genuine classified programs. Grush's testimony led to increased congressional pressure for transparency and additional hearings, marking a new phase in the official UFO disclosure process. The Reagan Initiative refers to a curious pattern in President Ronald Reagan's speeches where he repeatedly referenced the unifying effect an alien threat might have on humanity. Most notably, in a 1987 speech to the United Nations General Assembly, Reagan said, "I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world." He made similar comments on at least 3 other occasions. UFO researchers have long speculated about what might have prompted these repeated references. Some note that Reagan had been briefed on UFO incidents during his presidency. Others point to an incident in 1974, when Reagan, then governor of California, claimed to have witnessed a UFO while flying on a plane. The pilot and passengers also observed the object. Reagan's chief of staff confirmed that Reagan took the sighting seriously and told many people about it. The alien threat speeches have fueled speculation. Was Reagan preparing the public for disclosure? Was he simply using a rhetorical device? Or did he know something that made him genuinely consider how humanity might respond to alien contact? The fact that a sitting US president would invoke alien threats repeatedly in major speeches suggests that, at minimum, the concept of non-human intelligence was something he had thought about seriously. The Black Knight satellite is an urban legend claiming that an alien satellite has been orbiting Earth for approximately 13,000 years. The story combines several unrelated events: unusual radio signals detected by Nikola Tesla in 1899, which he believed might be from Mars, a 1954 report of 2 satellites detected in Earth orbit before any nation had launched satellites, and most famously, photographs taken during Space Shuttle mission STS-88 in 1998 showing a dark object in orbit. The STS-88 photographs are the most compelling visual evidence cited by believers. However, NASA has explained that the object is a thermal blanket that was lost during an EVA spacewalk, a mundane explanation supported by the blanket's documented loss during the mission. The story of the Black Knight has been thoroughly debunked by skeptics who've traced how unrelated events were combined into a single narrative through internet forums. Yet it remains popular, perhaps because it captures something appealing: the idea that humanity has been under observation for millennia, that evidence of this observation is hiding in plain sight, and that space agencies know more than they're telling. The Black Knight legend demonstrates how UFO mythology develops, separate events get connected, speculation becomes assertion, and eventually, fiction becomes treated as fact by some communities online. The citizen hearing on disclosure, held at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. from April 29 to May 3, 2013, was an unprecedented event. Organized by UFO researcher Stephen Bassett, the hearing brought together 40 witnesses, including military personnel, government officials, and researchers, to testify before 6 former members of Congress about UFO encounters and the alleged government cover-up. Witnesses testified for 30 hours over 5 days, presenting evidence and personal testimony about UFO encounters, crash retrievals, and government knowledge. The former Congress members included senators and representatives who, while no longer in office, brought credibility to the proceedings. The hearing was modeled on an actual congressional hearing, following similar procedures. Testimonies included accounts from Air Force officers who'd been at nuclear missile sites during UFO incidents, radar operators who'd tracked unknown objects, and intelligence officials who claimed knowledge of crash retrieval programs. While the hearing had no official government sanction or power, it represented an effort to create public pressure for official disclosure. The fact that it could attract dozens of credible witnesses willing to testify under oath about their UFO experiences suggests either a widespread delusion or a genuine phenomenon that deserves serious investigation. The hearing was later made into a documentary and remains the most comprehensive public gathering of UFO testimony in history. The Aguadilla UFO incident of April 25, 2013, was captured on infrared camera by a U.S. Customs and Border Protection aircraft near Rafael Hernandez Airport in Puerto Rico. The video shows an object moving at high speed at low altitude, estimated at approximately 80 miles per hour. What makes this case extraordinary is what the object does. It appears to enter the ocean without slowing down, travels underwater for a considerable distance, then emerges and continues flying. At one point in the video, the object appears to split into 2 separate objects, both of which continue at high speed. The video has been analyzed extensively by the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies, which concluded that the object displays characteristics that don't match any known aircraft or drone. The object had no visible means of propulsion, no wings or rotors, yet maintained controlled flight at varying altitudes and speeds. The transition from air to water and back to air, without apparent loss of velocity or control, is particularly puzzling. No known vehicle can perform this seamlessly. The Puerto Rico Department of Homeland Security confirmed the video's authenticity but has offered no explanation for what was filmed. The case is strengthened by the fact that it was captured on multiple sensors, infrared and radar, by professional operators who were tracking it as an unknown object in controlled airspace near an airport. The concept of consciousness as a factor in UFO encounters has become increasingly discussed in research circles. Multiple experiencers have reported that UFO encounters seem to involve mental or psychic components, telepathic communication, a sense of connection with the intelligence behind the phenomena, or the feeling that the encounter was somehow meant for them specifically. Some researchers, including the late Dr. John Mack, believed that UFO encounters might involve an intersection between consciousness and physical reality that we don't yet understand. This theory suggests that the observer's state of consciousness might actually play a role in the manifestation or perception of the phenomenon. This would explain why UFOs sometimes seem to respond to witnesses' thoughts, why multiple people can witness the same event but remember different details, and why physical evidence is sometimes ambiguous or disappears. Day described tracking these objects for several days, watching them appear and disappear from radar. When Fravor was sent to intercept, it was after days of these radar anomalies. What Fravor encountered visually confirmed what Day had been seeing on radar, an object capable of instantaneous acceleration, hovering without visible means of propulsion, and demonstrating awareness of the jet's presence. The corroboration between radar data and pilot observation, both from highly trained military personnel using sophisticated equipment, makes this one of the strongest modern UFO cases. The objects weren't just seen, they were tracked, measured, and recorded by multiple independent systems, all showing the same impossible performance characteristics. The phenomenon of missing time is one of the most consistent elements in close encounter reports. Witnesses report experiencing a period where time seems to have passed without their awareness. They remember the beginning of an encounter and the end, but have no memory of what happened in between. Sometimes this involves hours passing that felt like minutes. In other cases, witnesses arrive at destinations much earlier or later than should have been possible given when they left and the distance traveled. Missing time is often how people first realize they've had more than just a sighting. They wonder, where did those 2 hours go? And only through hypnotic regression or gradual memory return do they recover memories of abduction experiences. Skeptics argue that missing time can be explained by normal psychological phenomena, highway hypnosis, fugue states, or microsleep. However, when missing time occurs to multiple witnesses simultaneously, as in the Allagash abductions, and all can account for each other but not for the missing hours, conventional explanations become less satisfying. The consistency of missing time reports across thousands of independent witnesses, many of whom had never heard of the phenomenon before experiencing it themselves, suggests a pattern worth investigating. Whether it represents memory suppression by an external intelligence, psychological trauma causing amnesia, or something else entirely remains a core mystery of the abduction phenomenon. The French government's relationship with UFO research stands in stark contrast to the American approach. France established JEPAN in 1977, making it the first official government agency dedicated to UFO research. JEPAN, later renamed GAIPAN, has operated continuously for over 40 years, investigating reports, analyzing physical evidence, and publishing findings. Unlike American programs that operated in secrecy, GEIPAN's work has been relatively transparent, with case files available to researchers. French scientists have published peer-reviewed papers about UFO cases with unexplained physical evidence. The Transi-en-Provence case we discussed was investigated by GAIPAN with the full resources of French scientific laboratories. The French approach demonstrates that scientific investigation of UFOs doesn't require secrecy or stigma. By treating it as a legitimate area of inquiry, France has accumulated decades of systematically investigated cases and physical evidence analysis. Their official position is that a small percentage of cases remain unexplained after thorough investigation and that these merit continued scientific attention. The French model has influenced other countries. Several nations have established similar official investigation bodies. The contrast between the French approach of open, scientific investigation and the historical American approach of dismissal and secrecy raises questions about why different governments have adopted such different strategies toward the same phenomenon. The collective unconscious theory, drawing on Carl Jung's psychology, suggests that UFO phenomena might be archetypal manifestations from humanity's collective psyche rather than physical craft from other worlds. Jung himself wrote about UFOs, suggesting they might be modern psychological phenomena, symbols emerging from the collective human mind during times of cultural anxiety, particularly the Cold War nuclear threat. In this interpretation, UFOs serve a similar psychological function to religious visions or mythological encounters in previous eras. They're how the human mind processes existential concerns and yearnings. This theory would explain why UFO reports contain so many mythological and spiritual elements, why encounters often feel transformative or religious, and why the phenomenon has persisted across cultures in forms that adapt to each era's technological understanding. However, this psychological explanation struggles to account for cases with multiple independent witnesses, radar returns, physical trace evidence, and electromagnetic effects. Can collective psychology leave burn marks on witnesses, shut down missile systems, or appear on radar? Critics of the psychological theory argue it confuses the cultural interpretation of the phenomenon with the phenomenon itself. Perhaps UFO experiences are psychologically transformative because they're genuine encounters with something unknown, rather than the experiences being purely psychological in origin. The debate between psychological and physical explanations for UFOs remains unresolved. The concept of gradual disclosure suggests that governments, particularly the United States, are slowly releasing information about UFOs in a controlled manner to avoid societal shock. Proponents point to a clear timeline, Decades of denial and ridicule. Then in 2017 the first Navy videos are released. In 2019 the Navy acknowledges the videos and creates new reporting guidelines. In 2020 Congress requests official reports. In 2021 the preliminary UAP report is released. In 2022 AARO is established. In 2023 whistleblowers testify before Congress about crash retrieval programs. This progression from UFOs don't exist to UFOs exist but we don't know what they are to there might be recovered materials suggests a deliberate strategy of gradually acclimating the public to increasingly significant revelations. Each step normalizes the conversation, making the next step less shocking. Skeptics argue this pattern simply reflects growing evidence and changing attitudes, not a coordinated disclosure strategy. They note that if the government had definitive proof of alien visitation, there's no evidence they're any closer to revealing it despite the gradual acknowledgements. However, believers point to statements by former officials like Harry Reid and Christopher Mellon suggesting that much more is known than has been revealed, and that disclosure is happening, just carefully, layer by layer, to avoid panic or societal disruption. Whether gradual disclosure is occurring or whether we're simply seeing the phenomenon gain legitimate attention remains debated. The connection between human consciousness evolution and UFO phenomena has been proposed by several researchers, most notably Dr. John Mack. Mack suggested that close encounter experiences might be serving a function in human evolution, not biological evolution, but consciousness evolution. He noted that experiencers often report expanded awareness, environmental consciousness, spiritual development, and a sense of connection to something larger than themselves. From this perspective, the phenomenon might be deliberately interactive with human consciousness, appearing in ways designed to expand our understanding of reality beyond purely materialist frameworks. This theory suggests that the phenomenon is neither purely physical nor purely psychological but operates at an intersection we don't yet understand, affecting both physical reality and consciousness simultaneously. This would explain why the phenomenon seems to select certain individuals for repeated contacts, why encounters are often transformative, and why the phenomenon has persisted throughout human history in forms adapted to each era's conceptual frameworks. Critics argue this theory is unfalsifiable and essentially makes UFOs into a quasi-religious phenomenon. However, supporters note that just because something affects consciousness doesn't mean it isn't real. Profound, genuine experiences change people. If a non-human intelligence is present, and if consciousness is more fundamental to reality than our current science acknowledges, then the phenomenon's consciousness interactive aspect might be its most important feature, not a distraction from the nuts and bolts question. The Nimitz encounters of 2004 included details that have only recently been revealed by additional witnesses coming forward. According to multiple personnel from the Princeton and Nimitz, the objects weren't just seen by pilots, they were observed by dozens of crew members simultaneously. The objects were allegedly seen dropping into the water and creating disturbances that suggested something large was beneath the surface. Some witnesses reported that E-2 Hawkeye surveillance aircraft tracked these objects on radar as they maneuvered around the carrier strike group. The encounters reportedly continued for days, with objects appearing regularly during training exercises. What makes these additional details significant is that they paint a picture of a sustained presence, not an isolated incident. The objects weren't just passing through, they appeared to be observing or even interacting with the carrier group's activities. Several witnesses have stated that after the encounters, they were told not to discuss what they'd seen, and that some data was confiscated. The combination of visual sightings, radar tracking, infrared video, and multiple sensor systems all confirming the same objects makes the Nimitz encounters perhaps the best documented UFO case in history. The fact that it took over a decade for the full picture to emerge, as witnesses slowly came forward after retiring, suggests that similar well-documented encounters might still be classified. The philosophical implications of confirmed alien visitation would be profound and far-reaching. Religions would face the challenge of incorporating non-human intelligence into their cosmologies and theological frameworks. Science would need to expand its understanding of what's possible in terms of physics, propulsion, and perhaps consciousness itself. Political structures might face legitimacy challenges if it's revealed that governments have hidden such significant information. The economic implications could be staggering. If advanced energy or propulsion technologies exist, they could make current energy infrastructure obsolete. Socially, humanity's self-perception would fundamentally change. We would no longer be the pinnacle of intelligence and achievement, but rather a developing species being observed by more advanced civilizations. This could be either humbling or inspiring, depending on the nature of the contact. Psychologically, some individuals might struggle with ontological shock, the shattering of their fundamental assumptions about reality. Others might experience it as validation of long-held beliefs. The fact that confirmed contact hasn't happened, or at least hasn't been officially confirmed, might itself be evidence of consideration for these massive implications. Perhaps the ambiguity is deliberate, allowing humanity to gradually adjust to a larger reality at a pace we can handle. Or perhaps we're simply not yet ready, and won't be until these philosophical, theological, scientific, and social questions are something we're prepared to confront collectively. After exploring 100 facts about UFOs and alien conspiracies, we're left with a profound question: what does it all mean? We've journeyed from ancient skies to modern military encounters, from individuals touched by the unknown to governments gradually acknowledging mysteries they cannot explain. We've seen physical evidence and psychological transformation, mass sightings and individual contacts, official acknowledgment and persistent denial. What emerges is not a simple answer but a richer question. Whether the phenomenon represents extraterrestrial visitors, interdimensional beings, advanced human technology, psychological archetypes, or something entirely beyond our current frameworks of understanding, it has been a consistent part of human experience across cultures and throughout history. The phenomenon has taught us something valuable regardless of its ultimate nature. Our universe is stranger and more mysterious than our daily lives suggest. Our understanding of reality is incomplete, and there are experiences that transcend easy explanation. Perhaps the point isn't to reach a final answer but to remain open to mystery, to continue investigating with both scientific rigor and intellectual humility. Whether we're alone in the universe or have been visited throughout our history, the question itself expands our consciousness and imagination. And maybe that expansion, that willingness to wonder, to question, to remain curious about the unknown, is the most important thing we can take from our exploration of the UFO phenomenon. Thank you for joining me on this journey through 100 facts about UFOs and the mysteries that surround them. Whether you're a believer, a skeptic, or somewhere in between, I hope this exploration has given you something to think about. The sky remains full of questions, and perhaps that's exactly as it should be. Keep looking up, keep wondering, and never stop asking questions. Until next time, rest well, dream deeply, and remember, the universe is far stranger and more wonderful than we know.